Hi, I'm Natalie Yeadon. I'm one of the co-owners and managing directors for Impetus Digital. We are a collaboration platform and service that allows life science companies to be able to have courageous conversations about a myriad of topics with their stakeholders, be it physicians, payers, patients, allied healthcare providers. And in this digital era where we're talking about digital revolution and an explosion of digital technologies, we're having some bigger conversations beyond the pill. We're talking about things about data privacy. What does that look like? How do we share this? What's the ethics behind it? We're actually talking about new technologies beyond pills. How do we do clinical trials? So we're going to be creating a series over the next several weeks and months that are going to be talking about all of these topics. And the Impetus Insight platform is an excellent tool where we've curated the best-in-class collaboration tools to have these kinds of provocative conversations. So today what I'm going to be actually talking about is about a first take at some of the challenges that we currently face in the healthcare system and why the revolution or the evolution of digital technologies is so needed right now. And the first piece to this is really around misdiagnosis. In the United States, there's about 12 million significant misdiagnoses that are performed in a single year. And there's all kinds of reasons why this is taking place. Everything from the failure to order the right test. People are misinterpreting the tests. And there could also be things like improper differential diagnoses that's happening, as well as the fact of just plain old missing abnormal findings. I mean, physicians are tired and overworked, and they could easily miss things based on the volume of patients that they're having to see. They're only human. And so again, the idea here is, can there be other options that are digital? So the other piece to what is currently going on in the medical system is the issue around mistreatment. And there's over a third of medical operations that are actually considered unnecessary. And so one of the things we actually find is that they've discovered is that the top 7 low value procedures are still being used on a regular basis. And so we actually call this things like, unfortunately, the way physicians actually think is because there is so much information that they need to know at any given time, they use a process of habit formation, or what they call heuristics, or shortcuts in your mind, that if you see XYZ occurring in a patient's history or in their medical record, that you will use confirmational bias to make a decision about what to do next and how to treat. So this is actually how certain things can get missed. Or they'll get involved with what we call therapeutic illusions, that this is actually the way they've always done it. These are the tests that you should always order for these kinds of patients. And so we get stuck into this type of mistreatment or misuse of tests. So there's a lot of organizations that have crept up recently. One's called Choosing Wisely, and another one called the Right Care Alliance Initiatives, that are trying to put a stop to some of these unnecessary initiatives or tests, and just to be able to use and save money in the healthcare system in general. And I think a final piece to this is that what we're also struggling with healthcare today is really the average length of time that physicians or other health are using and sharing with their patients. So unfortunately, the average length in the US is 7 minutes per patient. If they're a new patient, it's 12 minutes, but on average, it's 7 minutes. How can you have a great conversation? How can you allow patients to be able to share their stories, to really get into and delve into the history of what they've been doing, or how they're going to be doing things, or the questions that they have? And how can you, as a physician, actually be able to share best practices about what can be done? So these are concerns that we all have or should have about the healthcare system that we're having. And even being a pharmaceutical or medical device company, how can your drug or drugs or the disease area even be explained properly in 7 minutes? So these are concerns that we all have. And I think last but not least, at least in today's discussion, is I think that we're seeing this area of what we call shallow medicine, where we're relying too heavily on things like surrogate endpoints and not really delving into the real issues, which is the impact that drugs and medication and devices and apps and technologies and other sorts of softer things like meditation and lifestyle changes are having on actual things like on lifetime expectancy and other sorts of quality of life measures. And we're really spending an inadequate amount of time on examination of patients and the review of medical literature. So how do we get this in front of physicians better? How do we get this in front of patients better from an education and a retention standpoint, and getting away from confirmational bias and heuristics and sort of like knee-jerk reflex actions in how we're managing? So how do we save money in the healthcare system? So these are some really provocative questions that we need to be starting to ask physicians, allied healthcare providers, other healthcare stakeholders. And again, as I was mentioning, the Impetus Insight platform is a great platform to be having these kinds of dialogue and conversations and courageous conversations. So thank you so much. And until next time, be courageous.